It's time to be equipped with spiritual battle. Defending the Faith is a show to train Christians worldwide to be effective teachers and speakers on the subject of biblical creation, so that the next generation can stand firm on biblical truth and defend their faith. Now here's your host of Defending the Faith, Mike Riddle.
Welcome to Defending the Faith. I'm Mike Riddle, your host, and we have a ministry called Creation Training Initiative, or CTI for short. And you can find us on the website at creationtraining.org. That's all one word, creationtraining.org. And we talk about things such as how should Christians learn how to defend their faith, how to have answers for the hope that we have. And that is a biblical command that we are told to have ready answers always for what we believe. Well, today we have another special day here. I have a guest with us today on Defending the Faith, Heinz Lycklama. Heinz, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And could you tell us, now I have a question for you. I want to start off with a real quick question. Can a real scientist believe in a literal six-day creation?
Yes. The simple answer is yes.
Yes, and you know that for sure, because what is your background in education?
Well, my education is two different areas. One is in engineering physics, and I have a degree in that, a bachelor's degree. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I moved into nuclear physics as an experimental physicist. And I have my doctorate in nuclear physics. Both of these are from McMaster University in Canada.
So PhD in nuclear physics. So if somebody doesn't like you, you can go plant a bomb and blow up their house, can't you?
Well, I'd never do that.
No, we wouldn't do things like that. Yeah. But that's quite a background credential there. And I understand you know a little bit about computer technology also.
Yes. Actually, after my career, after my education in Canada, we moved to the States, to New Jersey, and I was fortunate enough to get a job with Bell Telephone Laboratories, which is the premier research organization in the U.S., and I started out in the days of digital switching when it was just coming new. And you may have heard of the Unix operating system. That was also started the same year I started at Bell Labs. So I was very fortunate to be in the foreground of Unix, of TCP/IP, the communication protocols, and just the whole start of the high-tech industry.
So you were really instrumental in helping set up some of the worldwide standards and even what we do on the internet today.
I was.
Not like other people who have claimed that in the past.
That's right. Correct.
So you were really there, and I've seen some of the books with your picture in the books with these people who did start up the Unix operating system, which runs our internet, and the protocols that run the internet. So you were actually there.
Yes.
And so this is real stuff we're talking about. So you got a PhD in physics, you've got you're instrumental in setting up worldwide standards for computer technology today. And how about you even have a little bit of athletics in your background, too?
Yes, I was also athletic in school. I was a member of the wrestling team in the high school for 2 years, and I managed to get a second in wrestling in high school in the province of Ontario.
Excellent. And go ahead.
And then after that, in university, I took up judo because they didn't have wrestling. And after a few years, I managed to take the lightweight judo championship at Ontario and Quebec, the two largest provinces in Canada.
And you had a black belt in that?
I had a brown belt.
Brown belt, okay.
Yeah.
So, wow. So you got quite a background. Now, were you a Christian when all this was going on?
Yes, I was. I grew up in a very strong Christian family. My folks were, in Holland. I was born in Holland myself during the Second World War, and I grew up in a very strong Christian family. My parents actually hid a Jew in the attic of their home during the war, Second World War, in the house that I was born in. And so we know that culture very well. And then after the war, since the devastation in Europe, my parents decided to immigrate to Canada. So they got on the boat. I decided, I was 5 years old at the time. I figured, well, I might as well get on that boat too. And so here we were in Canada, and that's where I grew up. That's where I met my wife, Gerda, and that's where I got my education.
Okay. Now, you're a Christian. how about the issue of creation evolution? Where did you stand on that when you were getting your degree and PhD in physics?
Yeah, back when I started university, it wasn't a big issue then. However, the first geology class I had from the geology professor, he said, don't believe what you read in the Bible. Here's how it really works. Here's the layers, and here's what they mean. And so I was challenged in my faith immediately the first year in college.
Now, you believe in a six-day creation now, don't you?
I do.
So we can be a real scientist and believe in the six-day creation, and there's really no conflict between the two, is there?
No. If you look at creation versus evolution, and you look at the science behind that, you will see that science supports creation much better than evolution.
Right. And there's all these pastors out there and people out there that think God must have used evolution in billions of years, but that's not true, is it?
That's not true. From a science point of view, we can show that doesn't work.
Right, because here's the problem. We've got too many people out there in these churches and pastors who thinking that billions of years have been proven. And they've never studied it for themselves.
That's correct.
They're going by what we call consensus theology is what they're teaching. What the most people believe, they tend to teach. And they're not asking the right questions, are they?
They are not.
But now, Heinz, you live in the state of Washington.
I do.
And you do a lot of apologetics. Matter of fact, tell us about the ministry you're involved in now.
Well, two different things. As I participated in my career, which was in the high-tech industry for 40 years, and the last 20 years I actually had my own consultancy, and so I could determine how much time I spend working on contracts for different clients as opposed to doing lectures on creation versus evolution and related apologetics topics. And so we have 5 children, and as they were growing up, going through their teenage years, we saw some of the issues that they had to deal with. And so at that point, I decided I need to get very involved in how we explain this, not just to our children, but to youth of their age group, all teenagers at the time. And so just to back up a bit, our oldest daughter actually went to public school first when we moved to New Jersey. And a few years into that, the 3rd grade, I think it was, she was told by the teacher that we came from apes, from an ape. And I said, we got to do something about this. And so that's how I got my start in apologetics. We pulled her out of public school, put her into a Christian school. I started the issues to do with creation versus evolution, and eventually I developed a set of lectures that I gave to the youth to train them into how to defend, science, defend the Bible and the science behind it.
And you did say that right, how to defend true science, because our youth are not getting true science when it comes to origins, are they?
They are not. They're not asking the right questions, or they're not being told the answers to some of the hard questions that they have.
And I've heard that you do talks on some things as a Darwinian pseudo-science.
I do. And of course, that is later in my career. At the time, when our daughter had these questions from the teacher and I got more involved, we also got involved in teaching our kids through the youth program in the small church that we were going to, because we could see that they weren't getting the answers that they needed in the church there.
And we need more parents to do what you did. Get involved with their children's education, because they're getting slaughtered out there with this pseudo-evolutionary science.
Yeah, that is true. And most because they don't know. They just don't know.
And they're in all sorts of areas. And you do talks on just these areas right here to give the true science, things we actually know for sure that we can observe are repeatable, and things we don't know.
That's correct, yeah.
And one of those talks is, you do talks on origin of life and something fabulous called information. We're in the information age today, but many people understand what information really is, do they?
That's correct. And just to give you a little bit of background on that, I think some of the challenges that we have is to explain the origins of the universe, origins of first life, origins of complex life. Those 3 hurdles that evolution cannot answer properly.
And I've seen that over and over again, and some of our teachers are just saying, well, let's not answer. We don't want to dwell in those kind of questions here. Folks, if you're not willing to dwell in those kind of questions, then maybe you're in the wrong business as an educator. And for instance, we're in just a moment, I want to dwell onto that origin of life and information one. That's a favorite topic of mine. And with your background, you've got a lot of knowledge. Now, I'd like to stop. Now, Heinz, you travel all over doing talks on this information, don't you?
At this point, I do. After I finished my career in high-tech industry, I actually gradually cut down on the number of projects that I did. I got more involved in teaching apologetics. And the apologetics that I teach highlights creation versus evolution. That's a big part of it. But there's a second part, and that is general Christian apologetics. How do we defend our faith in general? And of course, this goes back to 1 Peter 3:15 and Jude 3, where we are to defend the faith.
Yeah, and again, for those of you listening out there, apologetics doesn't mean we go out there and apologize for what we believe. It comes from the Greek apologia, means we have a verbal defense. We can actually tell people why we believe the Bible. I find a lot of Christians can't do that.
That's correct. And just as an example, I did a debate with an atheist back in 2013. And I explained why I believe what I believe, because I can defend what I believe. And so I asked the atheist, so what is the basis of your belief? Why do you believe what you believe, and why do you think that's true? Give me some evidence of that. And he can't answer that.
No, they really can't. And here's another problem I see. The Christians seem to be always on the defense. Most Christians don't even know the right questions to ask, let alone answer the challenges.
Yeah.
And that's why you're doing what you're doing out there, preparing Christians, preparing the parents so that they can raise their children to be able to stand firm on God's word.
Correct. And just as part of that, since I had more time available for the last 15 years, I got involved in doing lectures overseas, and largely to Bible schools in Eastern Europe, some in Thailand, and also in one case in Africa, Cameroon. So I've given a lot of lectures on different apologetics topics in those three areas. And I teach complete courses at different Bible schools, in Eastern Europe in particular. And so out of that grew a series of lectures that I have and sermons that I have that I give locally as well now.
Now, here's a question. Are they more open to this subject in foreign countries than what we find over here in America?
They are, in fact. In Europe, they're very open to that. They can't understand, since most of the university students in Eastern Europe grew up under communism, and they were told evolution is a fact and it's just true, just believe it. They can't understand there's such a thing as a Christian who also believes in creation.
So they're willing to listen to you over there.
They are willing to listen.
Isn't that a shame that here we are in our country, how intolerant we are in this country, how intolerant many of our churches are? They don't want to hear this message. Their mind is made up that God used evolution.
Yeah.
And we've become a very intolerant nation over here. We don't want to hear anything if it doesn't agree with what we believe.
Correct. And as one example, I think, Mike, you know this as well, that in China, the scientists would say, well, here in China, we can question evolution, but we can't question our government. In the U.S., it's just the reverse. We can question the government, but we can't question evolution.
Yes, there seems to be a real stronghold delusion over our country and over many of our, unfortunate, Christian university professors. They've been deluded, and they're bowing down and worshiping the idol of evolutionism, or parts of it.
And as one example, I gave a lecture in Bulgaria at a secular university on why evolution is not good science, and I gave 4 reasons for that. And it turns out there was a retired biology teacher in the audience who taught high school, and he taught during the communist era everything about evolution because he considered that a fact. And then when he heard me, he said to my host there, I'm sorry I taught my students that evolution is a fact. Now I understand it's not.
And that's why it's so imperative for us to get into the churches so the people there can hear the truth.
And just to add to that, so he asked me, if you come back to Bulgaria, can you now give that same lecture to my students who are now teachers in high school? I said, yes, I'd be happy to do that. And so I did that a few years later and spoke at two different audiences, two different high schools. And I didn't bring the Bible into it because, it's a very secular world there. So I explained why I don't believe in evolution as good science. They immediately got the message and said, so what do you believe in? And that, of course, opens up the opportunity to share what I do believe in creation.
You are practicing what I call the principle of 2 Corinthians 10, 4 and 5, to bring down all strongholds and everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And once you've done that, then I say you go for the jugular. You give them the gospel.
Yeah. And so you're limited to what you can do, but they got the message.
Great. And again, this is Defending the Faith. I'm Mike Riddle, your host, and you can get a hold of us, our ministry, by going to our website, creationtraining.org, creationtraining.org, or you can email us at info, I-N-F-O, at creationtraining.org. That's how you can get a hold of us. Now, Heinz, again, our guest is Heinz Lycklama. He's got his PhD in experimental nuclear physics and also computer technology, and also a pretty good athlete there. How could they get a hold of you? Give us your website, and if somebody wanted you to come and speak at their church or their organization, how could they do that?
Yeah. Well, I maintain two different websites. One is my name, HeinzLycklama.com, where all the contact information is, and I also store all of the lectures that I have done in the past and I'm working on my website. All the PowerPoint slides are there. People are free to download them. And, of course, my contact information is there as well.
So you're not in this for the money, are you?
I'm not in this for the money, no.
No, we try and give away as much as we can for free. Now, you run an apologetics group. Give us what is the name of this apologetics group, and what do you do in there?
Yeah. Okay, the apologetics forum that we formed in 2013. This is one that we started in our area. We live in Arlington, Washington, and so I've got in contact with a number of churches there and started this forum to give the reasons for what we believe. And it's apologeticsforum, all one word, .org is where that website is. So I maintain both of those websites and increase the information on both of them.
Right. And you bring speakers in occasionally to do the lectures, and
yes.
You do a lot of the lectures yourself.
Actually, for the forum, we bring in different lectures. I speak at the forum probably once a year because I want the opportunity for people to listen to different speakers in the apologetics area.
Well, excellent. And I've had the privilege of being one of those speakers, and it's a well-run ministry you have there, and I appreciate that, and very professionally done. And again, give us how they can contact you via email or website again. Just make sure everybody's got that.
Yeah. Well, Apologetics Forum, you can reach me through info, I-N-F-O, at apologeticsforum.org. And in the my personal website, HeinzLycklama.com, you can reach me at Heinz at O as in open, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, A as in Apple.com. And that stands for Open Systems Technology Associates, which is the consultancy that I ran for 20 years.
Okay. And now I would like to get to this topic here that we want to cover, information and life, the origin of life. Tell us a little bit about, is that an important issue in this creation-evolution battle?
It is, and I take it as one of the most important issues because it's so easy to demonstrate that the information in life is crucial to the message that we have, because every concept, everything that you can see in nature, it can be explained by one of three concepts. Either it happened by chance, just random chance, or it happened because there's some natural law which would force it to happen that way. Law of gravity, for example, we know that it's always worked. You step off a table or something like that, you're going down, not up. That's a law of nature. And then the third is design. In other words, if something didn't happen because of random chance, or it must happen because of some law, then it has to be designed.
When we get to life, isn't it possible, and this is what they teach in the schools, that about 3.5 billion years ago, chemicals bonded together to make the first living cell? Is that possible by random chance?
It is not. And here's why. First of all, we don't know. Scientists don't know what the environment was like. We can guess at it. We can assume certain gases were there. But if we're wrong, then, of course, whatever conclusions we come to are also wrong. And it's been shown that there is no way for life to start from non-life by chance. The odds, the complexity of life is so great that mathematically it's impossible to happen by chance. The second thing is experimentally. I mean, scientists have run experiments to show that life cannot start from non-life. Best demonstrated by Louis Pasteur in 1860s. 1864 was the definitive experiment that he ran, and he showed that life just cannot start from non-life. And of course, that was the same time at which Darwin was coming up with his theory, and he wrote The Origin of a Species in 1859. So he knew at that point that science could show that life cannot start randomly.
Yes, and in that book, The Origin of Species, I always like to make sure everybody hears the full name of that book. The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection and the Preservation of the Favored Races. What does that tell you about Charles Darwin out there, folks, who everybody's worshiping?
Yeah, well, there's many problems with the book, but I do have to say for Charles Darwin that at least I considered him a fairly honest scientist at the age that he wrote that book and the time that he wrote that book. We didn't know, or the scientists back then didn't know a lot about what was in the human body, what was in life. And so he made some guesses which turned out not to be true. But he had a whole chapter in the book which says, if these things can be shown not to be true, then my theory can't be a fact.
And they've pretty much shown those things are not true.
That's true.
Yes, such as one of them, which he never really addressed, was the origin of life. He never really got into that very much at all because they didn't understand what the cell was back then.
Right. He thought it was a blob. The cells were just blobs that somehow just grew. And
so he took a wild assumption that there was, and didn't understand the complexity in there. And his whole theory was based on the origin of that first cell.
Yeah, that's correct. But he didn't address it in his book, but he did refer to a primordial soup at some point. There could be some warm pond there that life started, but he didn't know how. And
we've shown today over and over again that if you put some kind of soup together, you're not going to get a cell. You're not even going to get a biological protein.
That's right. That's right.
So we've consistently shown that Darwin was wrong.
That's correct.
And we've consistently shown from there on that evolutionary science, or pseudo-science, whatever you want to call it, can't be true either because they can't get the first cell. Without that first cell, there's nothing for Darwin to base anything on.
That's correct. So and when I speak on that topic, I often say things like, the only difference between life and non-life is one thing. That's information.
Right. You can get all the right pieces together, but it's not going to live, is it?
That's right. It requires information, and information I consider is data. But also it involves a program. There has to be a program in there.
It's like the software operating system of a machine, but thousands and millions of times more complex than an operating system.
Correct. And people look at the DNA, which is where the information is stored in a very special language, and they can see it. Yeah, it looks simple, but it's really complex. There's a lot built into that. And then the DNA also includes programs to run on that data.
Yeah, it's kind of like handing somebody a book and saying, do you believe the words in this book came together by random chance? If they can't believe that, then how would they possibly believe a cell, which is millions of times more complex, could come together by random chance?
Yeah. And in the talks that I do on this particular topic, life and origin, I show the comparison, the analogy between information. In our grammar, our words are built on an alphabet of 26 characters and numbers and all that, but there is a structure there that we understand as human beings. The structure in DNA, is much more complicated than that, and then computers also, people associate with information. Computers store information. But one of the common things about all this information, there's no weight to the information. Whether there's zeros on the disk or ones on the disk, it doesn't matter. It still weighs the same.
No, information has no mass, which means it's not material, which undermines the whole idea of materialism, doesn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
So right there you have it. We know that non-material things do exist.
Yeah. And naturalists, of course, won't accept that.
No, if they don't accept it, then they're not accepting information. They're not accepting the laws of logic because they're non-material. So it's the atheists who are denying observable science. Now, Heinz, this has been great. We're going to have you on again sometime because I want to dig deeper into your 3 pounds, your brain up there, because you've got a wealth of storage and information. Now, how can they get a hold of you again?
Okay, on my personal website, which is Heinz Lycklama.
How do you spell that, Heinz?
Heinz, like the ketchup bottle, Heinz Lycklama, Lycklama, all one word, .com. That's my personal website. I store all my lectures there, and contact information is available there.
Great. Again, this is Mike Riddle, and we're on Defending the Faith. And our radio ministry, if you like the information we're giving out over here, you might consider supporting us. We're totally donor-supported on this radio show, and we do need your support. And if you'd like to help support this ministry, you can send your donations to info, our mailing box, Post Office Box 2415. That's in Eagle, Idaho, 83616. So it's CTI, Post Office Box 2415. I better get that right. 2415. That's in Eagle, Idaho. Or you can just email us. That might make it easier. Just email us at info@creationtraining.org. info@creationtraining.org, and let us know that you like what you're hearing, or if you have any comments or questions you'd like to challenge us with, we'd like to hear those also. Send your challenges and questions, or just good comments if you like what we're doing, to info, that's info@creationtraining.org. Our website is creationtraining.org, just www.creationtraining.org. We have lots of free information out there. We have many videos, over 80 videos you can view out there that are about 30 minutes long, all free. All our PowerPoint slides are for free download out there. We have some audios out there you can download for free. So again, we need your support. If you'd like to keep radio ministries like this going, we'd like to have your little support. Every little bit helps. Again, send your emails to info@creationtraining.org. We'd love to hear from you. Any final things you'd like to say there, Heinz? And again, we're talking to Heinz Lycklama, PhD in experimental nuclear physics. So real scientists can believe in a 6-day creation.
That's correct. And I appreciate the time, and I have a passion for apologetics. I feel it's a message that the churches need to hear. We are losing a large percentage of our youth because we are not getting some of those questions that they have answered. And we have to understand that if they don't get the answers from the church, they're going to get their answers someplace else. And we may not like the answers that they get from someplace else, like our universities, secular universities certainly, but even some Christian universities who are on some slippery slope, like theistic evolution. That just doesn't cut it, in my view.
And I'll be very bold there, like Wheaton University, who have gone over to the deep side there, teaching evolution and theistic evolution.
Correct. And I've spoken to many parents after my lectures who said, I wish I knew some of this beforehand because I lost my child sending him to some Christian university who I thought would maintain their faith, but they were on that slippery slope through theistic evolution.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Heinz, and for being here, and hope to have you back soon. And thank you, and God bless all of you. This is Mike Riddle from Defending the Faith.
That's all for today's show. Defending the Faith airs each Saturday at noon right here on KBXL 94.1 The Voice. For more teachings and resources, visit creationtraining.org or the program archive page on 941thevoice.com.